Hi, this is Irving Steel, your host of Local Issues. And today, really excited to have an old friend and a special guest on the show who is the new school counselor over at East Lyme Public Schools. Dave Willis, how are you? Good to see you, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. I've known you, I think, since Flanders Elementary School in East Lyme.
It's crazy, yeah.
Many years, and I was super excited to hear recently that you were accepting the job as the new school counselor at East Lyme High School.
Absolutely, yeah. I was excited to take up that opportunity. I've been a school counselor for the last 10 years. I was up at Plainfield High School, actually, and I was made aware of this opportunity at East Lyme, and just to kind of be back home made perfect sense to me to go after this position. And before I knew it, they had me in pretty quick, and I was excited to get started. And good to be back in complete full circle. Having grown up there, and the experiences, and kind of being able to kind of bring that to the table is something I'm definitely looking forward to.
That's awesome, and I think it's pretty unique. It's not all the time where someone kind of jumps in the middle of the year like this, but I think it kind of says something about your background, your experiences, like you said, over 10 years, but then also your ties to the community here in Eastern Connecticut, and especially in East Lyme.
Absolutely, yeah. Diving into the job this time of year is it's definitely a difficult time to jump into any school job, but I'm very fortunate to I've had the experience working up there. So they say that March, April is PPT season, 504 meetings, things like that. So I dove right in, and before I knew it, I was meeting with kids, holding meetings, getting to know all different staff there right off the bat, and it was great. I was really fortunate that I had the experience for the last 10 years to kind of bring that with me and kind of go in and enter the job with some confidence. But it's been great getting to know the kids, the families, and it's really neat. Like when I work with kids, I'm always excited to tell them, like, hey, I graduated here.
It's a special connection with them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated in 2005, and they're like, "What? Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I had some of the same teachers that you had."
Wow, some of the same teachers still.
Yeah, and they get kind of excited, so I can kind of mildly kind of tell them stories of teachers that I had and things like that. So it's pretty cool, and it forms a really good easy connection right off the bat with the kids and the parents too. Even if I mention that to them, they appreciate that.
I'm sure,
yeah.
And I'm sure there's so much of an importance between the relationship that you build both with the students, then also with the parents, to have the most and best outcomes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's you're working with the kid, but you're working with the parents too. The phone calls home, as often when it's good and bad kind of thing.
Yep.
This communication is important. Working with the kids first and foremost, but you got to be a communicator as well in this job for sure.
Definitely. Well, maybe we could jump into the job a little bit more, taking a step back.
Sure.
How did you choose to become a school counselor? Why did you kind of take down this path in education and working with children?
Let's see. When I was at Fairfield University, I graduated in 2009, and when I kind of was toying with the idea of working in a school system in some capacity when I was a sophomore. I was a psychology major, Spanish minor, kind of thinking about what I wanted to do, and I decided to try an internship at Fairfield Prep, actually, which was right up the road. It was great. It was right there, and it was an all boys preparatory high school, but I did all kinds of tutoring with them, helping out with English, math, that kind of thing. Even some of the social emotional piece. Yes, it was a preparatory school, but they were, had a lot of high pressure and things like that, So, they did have some, their fair share of social emotional things that I kind of worked with them on. And, as I kind of did that when I was, early part of my senior year, I decided that, I would go after potentially being a school counselor and get my master's. I went up to Assumption College.
It's a profession where you need to have the master's to pursue it.
Yeah, absolutely, yep. You have to have a 2-year master's. I went to Assumption College, which is Assumption University now. I got my 2-year degree there, and then, I subbed, did all kinds of substitute teaching, tutoring as well.
Got your feet wet in the schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Various schools, middle schools, high schools. And then I actually got a job for Waterford Country School back down here. And I was working at a group home with young men, really, ages, 15 through, 21, 22, and here I was like 26, 27 years
Yeah.
old, working with them
Yeah.
and kind of giving them my best piece of advice about life and, trying to help them find jobs, going to their meetings at schools, talking to their teachers. And they had some, difficult behaviors and things, that due to their past and that kind of thing. So it was a really good experience. I ran groups with them. Like I said, helped them out with jobs in their school and that kind of thing. And it was, they lived there, so I got to really know them and work with them in full
You can learn a
capacity.
lot about people by how they live, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it was just, I even drove them to different appointments and things like that, so we had a special bond. And then ultimately, got a job up at Plainfield, and then, I was brought back home and the opportunity to be back home. So that's that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And for our viewers who are kind of interested in education, we hear a lot right now, especially after COVID, with the huge demand for teachers and the shortage of teachers. Have you kind of felt that in some of your experiences? Like after you graduated with this degree from Assumption, did you see lots of opportunity for school counselors in the region?
Not in the beginning. They say it's a job to get a job. I when I had my degree, it was a lot of applications, spending a lot of time doing that. Obviously, working on the side and making money. I worked as like a waiter and I subbed, and it was a busy lifestyle.
Busy and hard lifestyle.
Yeah, and ultimately, I wanted to be in the school system and kind of stuck with that. But when the jobs come up, you take full advantage of it. You hope for the best, but if they don't come up, the people that are looking for opportunities, you keep going. I wish, I hope, people that are getting the degrees, like stick with it, you'll find a system in place for you, and you may bounce around a little bit, but that's A-okay. And, it's just, you got to keep pushing. Like I said, it's a job to get a job. So I knew that firsthand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe in some aspects you set yourself apart. I mean, being a male in this kind of work, that it's maybe not the most men are in this job, so maybe that sets you apart a little bit. But then also, you've had a lot of experiences outside of the classroom, like with coaching and things like that you bring
absolutely.
to the table.
Yeah, I mean, being a male, there's benefits in certain situations for sure, as there are, being a female, of course. I've had, when I was up at Plainfield, I was, the only male counselor. I'm the only male counselor, at East Lyme right now. And yeah, there are situations where it's like, I feel like the kids the young men, adolescents, may divulge something, or it may make more sense kind of for me. But vice versa. I've been in situations where, this girl needs to talk to, a female. So
Exactly.
I'm like, whatever. It's a teamwork approach. Your full collaboration. Obviously we have our set caseloads, but situations come up where it's like you need collaboration, you need teamwork, you need to bounce ideas off of each other. That's a constancy. But yeah, I've seen other, colleagues, students, and things like that plenty of times. And I imagine at East Lyme, it'll, it's already happened a few times, and it will happen, But you just got to be willing to collaborate, and it's not about, who gets the job done. It's about getting the job done and helping the kids and that kind of thing. And, in terms of the coaching piece too, like, yeah, it was great. I at Plainfield, I coached JV girls basketball for 4 years, did that. And then I transferred over to doing golf as a golf coach, and that was a lot of fun as well. Just kind of able to kind of bond with the kids on a different level for sure. So it was a good experience, and I feel like I kind of bring, being able to see kids in different facets to the table. And obviously right now at East Lyme, I got my wife and 2 kids at home too, so I'm focusing on that as well. I'm not doing any coaching right now, but to kind of balancing that and focusing on the job.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm sure when the students see you out, whether it's on the golf course or on the basketball court, or just out in the community now with your 2 kids and your wife, they kind of have a different connection, different relationship with you, that you're a true part of the community that you're in, not just Mr. Willis, the school counselor, for 7-8 hours a day at school.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'd imagine, my parents live back in town, at East Lyme, and they're all the time, I was there yesterday, they live right in town, and I'm always glad to go back and see them. We have family gatherings there, and yeah, very much like to be out and about, and very much a family person, and I think that it's something that people appreciate in its, in its entirety. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing I remember you talking a little bit about is how you mentioned just right now too is the teamwork element of school counseling. And my experiences in schools is the same thing, that one teacher can connect with one student one way, but then another teacher can connect in a different way. And just the whole teamwork element that I think you were mentioning, maybe there's a secretary or someone on your team right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who's been just super helpful for you.
Yeah, it's, we're a team of 6 in the counselors, but we also have, our secretary, she's great, Ellen Bellows. Does a fantastic job kind of helping organizing meetings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is amazing when you have like all the pieces put together.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the job more fun, easier, more effective, all that stuff. Yeah, and that's something that I noticed right off the bat, in any position that, seemed like things were flowing pretty well. So I'm excited.
That's cool. I'm really curious your stance and your take, since you've been in the schools now over 10 years, worked with lots and lots of different students, seen kids both kind of pre-COVID, but then now kind of coming out of the pandemic, hopefully a little bit, and just the impacts maybe a little bit on the social, emotional side of students and what you're seeing, and maybe let some of our viewers know what schools can maybe do more of or less of, what communities can do more or less of to help students in this unique time.
Yeah, I mean, COVID was real, and it was had a huge impact on education. Probably more so than other jobs, other areas in life. But everything was affected. We all know that. But in terms of kids attending school, like it was a major detriment. It's been hard to battle back. I've read something where like an article that said it's going to take upwards to like 12 years and for us to like restore education that way it was before COVID.
12 years.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen various things online, just kind of reading and kind of being a searcher of knowledge kind of thing. But, it's attendance was majorly impacted.
Mm-hmm. Kids just weren't showing up to school.
Yeah, and it's just, you got to crawl back and try to get it to where it was. And it's just, the way to do that is all by relationships, right? I mean, the kids are coming to school for a reason, and they're excited, and they have a passion. They may have like an extracurricular that they're looking forward to, something like that, something that pulls them in. It just kind of makes a huge difference. The phone calls home, sometimes all it takes is a phone call. Obviously we have meetings and run things like that, but sometimes just the connection is all that it takes, and just kind of reaching out and touching base with the parents and the kids and things like that, and just kind of making sure that the parents know that you're there for them to support them and getting the kids to come to school. It's difficult. It's difficult for kids to get up in the morning, especially when it's dark in the winter and things like that. But, kind of let them know that they really need to be there. This is about creating lifelong habits and things like that. You got to push through it. It's not easy. It's never going to be perfect, but you know what? You do your best to come to school, and, ultimately, hopefully if we continue to do that, we'll be able to kind of restore things. But I think it's gotten better for sure. I really do. And I think if, educators keep pushing for it, the kids will be in a good place.
That's great. I appreciate that perspective. And it's something right now kind of in budget season in a bunch of towns and regions throughout Eastern Connecticut, that a lot of these towns and municipalities had lots of funding through ARPA funds and through COVID funds. But then now we're trying to figure out how can we fulfill the obligations for our students and for our community without having all these funds through COVID. And I think it's interesting to hear a little bit that when the leadership and the administrators are trying to save money and take things away in the budget, a lot of the talk continues to be around the importance of having really great school counselors like yourself and having really great social workers and these other kind of support staff in the schools to make sure, like you said, kids can become engaged and continue to be engaged in the learning.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm no master of understanding the full budget scope and that kind of thing, but anytime you can allocate resources / any funding towards the social emotional piece, counselors, social workers, school psychologists, all that. Of course, the teachers, where they really support them, and that's the reason kids come to school to learn. But yeah, if we're able to kind of support those counselors and the support staff, I definitely think it makes a difference, especially in these times, digging back out of the COVID hole. But yeah, in terms of like, that support piece, I think it's really important to realize that the kids need us,
Mm-hmm.
It'll continue, they always need support staff,
Mm-hmm.
there's situations every day that come up. You can't really predict what every day is going to entail. And yeah, the kids, they need some assistance for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how you work with students when they're thinking about going to college, or maybe they want to take another path. Kind of how do you help to understand and help guide them down the right path? You want to touch upon that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's really just like a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with, oftentimes, when you're kind of working with the kids to kind of select their courses, when they're 8th grade coming to, freshman year, you kind of work with them and give them what they need, let them pick a few electives. And then as you're kind of working with the freshmen to schedule into their sophomore year, I think you can kind of start to kind of, have that conversation. But it starts earlier too,
Mm-hmm.
being in classrooms and things like that, having the kids do inventories, that kind of thing. But when you're able to kind of sit down with them one-to-one, you can kind of have that conversation of kind of, what are you thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of help them kind of orchestrate their classes in that kind of demeanor. And it's cool at Islam. They have career concentrations. The kids can kind of pick they can get their diploma, but they can also get denoted on their transcript a career concentration if they kind of select like a STEM or like music or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of cool. You can kind of let them know what classes they need to fulfill it, and it may help kind of steer them towards a certain job or college beyond high school. So it's really kind of, it's a conversation with the kids. And when they're kind of trying to look at certain jobs and wonder about them, we use something called Naviance. Kids can explore on that. But I even tell them too, I'm like, use Google. Like it's a great resource. You can find out so much on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's great resources like College Board, Naviance, things like that. But just Googling, we do it in our life every day. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do that with careers and colleges. It's a resource. So.
And what's Naviance?
It's like a college career planning website that we use
Okay.
with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there are inventories on that the kids can do. They can research jobs, careers, things like that, post their resume on it. And then it's used pretty heavily when they apply to college. We send out documents on it and things like that. So it's a school resource. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool. It sounds like with the career concentration, it's almost like a minor or a major that the students have in high school, kind of setting them up a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just kind of it's equivalent of a college like pathway basically.
Mm-hmm.
At a high school level. There's kind of more and more push for that, and the fact that kids can do that is fantastic. They don't have to. If they don't want to, they can just take certain courses, which that's perfectly fine too. But the fact that they have the opportunity, it's cool.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And I think it's interesting too for you and I that we're probably in the grand majority of people that we grew up in this area and we were able to come back and be in this region. And I'm curious your take that a lot of people that we know we went to school with, maybe now they're living in Boston or maybe living in New York City. But is it possible? I mean, you've shown it is. You have a family here, you have kids here, you have an amazing job, making an impact on the community. What do you think for people that say, oh, there's great schools in Connecticut, I went there, but there aren't opportunities here. I can't live here, I can't afford it.
I think a lot of times where you grow up, regardless of where it is, you're looking to get another experience and kind of move away and see what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to the city, that's some people like living in the city more than, rural areas and things like that. I've always been more of a homebody, liking, the town aspect, front lawn, back lawn, that kind of thing with the family and kids in that capacity. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely make it work here. I mean, obviously, I'm very lucky to be working at a high school as a school counselor. And I think a lot of times, other kids that maybe we've gone to school with, they may be, if they're into businesses and things like that, the small business in Connecticut, I think that might be hard for them in terms of kind of being successful with that.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of venture out. Obviously with inflation, they're trying to, combat that too. But yeah, you just kind of budget your money appropriately. You can make it work here. And there are plenty of things to do, places to go, people to see, and new people to meet. So yeah, I'm very glad to be back living where I grew up.
Yeah, I can totally understand and agree with that. I mean, for me, I've been beyond fortunate, lucky enough, traveled many places around the world, different places. I mean, you as well. And I think there's something definitely special, just no place like home. You know, coming back, we have the beaches, the amazing parks in Connecticut. We also have the trails, you know, the small town feel. But there's also tons of great opportunity, I think, here for educators like yourself who want to be in education, but also many other fields where you can make a positive impact on the community.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, just kind of being out and about. You know, the other day, you know, we've you know, just kind of exploring, going hiking, things like that. Whether you go to like Rocky Neck, Harkness, you know, trying to find a place to kind of bring your family and hike. We just went up to a place up near Gardner Lake in Salem and hiked up there.
Nice.
I can't remember the name of the trail, but it was like, you know, it's a state park, and it's kind of fun, like seeing like, wow, there's like places here that I didn't really see when I was a kid. You know, it's kind of fun, new opportunities, and of course meeting people while you're out. You know, whether it be, you know, doing something like that, or, you know, through your new job, things like that. There's plenty of opportunities to be back home and, you know, thriving and meeting new people and, you know, enjoying your life to its fullest.
And it also helps if you're a basketball fan in Connecticut too, right?
That's right. UConn winning it all. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Back to back.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers about you, your background, or some of the work you're involved with in the community?
I think just that I'm glad to be back home, you know. You know, I live in Uncasville and, you know, back at East Lyme where I graduated and grew up, and yeah, it's just it's a pretty awesome story. And I was very fortunate to, you know, within a couple of days when I was there, I had one of my students came up to me and asked me about, hey, can I write an article about you in the Viking Saga? And I was like, absolutely, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You did a phenomenal job. You know, wrote a great article about me, and my family touched upon it. They were texting, oh, that's so cool. You know, it's kind of neat, you know, getting that kind of reaction and feeling that pride, I think, and, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, there's definitely a lot of pride to be back home for sure.
Definitely, and I think it's something that your family, your friends, the people that know you are just so proud of you, of all the good impact you are having on the students, on the school, and it's just the start. I'm sure that in years' time you're going to have even larger impact. So really grateful to have you back, and
Absolutely.
super proud and happy for you.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Really glad to be back, and it's been fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks so much for
Appreciate
being
it.
a guest on the show, Dave.
Thank you.